Clue Zoo, hello Lancers. What is the correct term to describe my heritage? Indian, Indigenous, First Nations, Aboriginal, other names. There isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to this question, as there are over 50 different Indigenous nations in Canada, living in over 600 communities. It can be challenging to find one single word. Here are some guidelines. First, it is preferable to avoid using the term Indian, since it was what Christopher Columbus called indigenous people when he arrived in America back in 1492, believing that he landed in India. There are some exceptions, such as communities that still have the official name of Indian Band, and there are First Nations individuals who may still use the word Indian among themselves. But the term has colonial connections for Indigenous people in Canada and may be offensive if used by a non-Indigenous person. So please don't use it. While the Government of Canada still uses the term Indian, there is a general movement to replace the term Indian with First Nation. Indigenous or Aboriginal is a collective name for the original peoples of North America and their descendants. The Canadian Constitution recognizes three groups of Aboriginal or Indigenous peoples. First Nations, which is defined as Aboriginal or Indigenous peoples of Canada who are neither Métis nor Inuit, formerly called Indians. Inuit, which are a group of cultural similar Indigenous peoples inhabiting the Arctic regions of Greenland, Canada, and Alaska, formerly called Eskimos. And Métis, which are people of mixed European and Indigenous ancestry. These three groups are distinct peoples with unique histories, languages, cultural practices, and spiritual beliefs. It is hard to choose one term to describe me, so it is important to remember that Indigenous nations, communities, organizations, and people are distinct and to remain sensitive to the respective name, spelling, and identity of each. So in conclusion for me, identify me as Indigenous, Aboriginal, First Nations, or use Chippewa, Anishinaabe, Anishinaabeg, or Ojibwe, as that refers to my heritage through my reserve Kettle and Stony Point First Nations. So please don't call me Indian. Thank you, miigwech.